What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am back in the Poudre Canyon here in northern Colorado, and I want to show you guys something that's hopefully going to be a pretty fun day of shooting, and that's Poudre Falls right here. It's absolutely not an amazing waterfall, but it'll help me kind of show what I want to teach you guys how to do, and that's taking long exposure photos. Honestly, it's a lot easier than it sounds, and you get really cool results. It's fun to play with, especially if you're newer to photography or just kind of wanting to do something kind of different. But let me switch over to the GoPro and I will show you guys how to get some long exposure photos. So first things first, I do want to apologize if it's really windy or if it's hard to hear me. Long exposure photography is a little bit more, you have to plan it a little better than just kind of run and gun, take your camera, run outside, and that's pretty much it. What I mean by that is you need a little bit of gear to make a long exposure photo work. Pretty self-explanatory, but some people don't know, and that's totally fine. So you need a tripod, and if you're shooting in broad daylight like I'm shooting right now, you can very much use ND filters and a polarizer. I'm just gonna stick to one ND filter. This is a 1.2. And because it's water, I'm gonna take a polarizer. Also a good tip, if you're in cold weather, and especially if you have metal filters, don't tighten them completely. You just wanna tighten them enough to not have them move around. But if you tighten them too much, they can be kind of hard to get off. Now the next thing is just finding a place to stand. I might just stand right here. Something else you want to make sure you're doing is setting it to a 2-second timer or a 10-second timer if you want. Make sure the stabilization on your lens is turned off. Same if you have internal stabilization in your camera, make sure that's turned off. And the reason for that is if the camera is moving as you're taking a long exposure shot, that image stabilization in your camera or in your lens, it's going to slowly adjust back to where you had your camera in the first place. You don't want that. You want it to very quickly hop back to where it was and then not move. So hit the shutter. So that is what a long exposure shot looks like. So, it got kind of windy outside, so I decided to come back into the truck so I could talk to you guys a little bit better. You didn't just hear the sound. If you think of a shutter speed as the amount of information that you can pack into a photo, you kind of understand what long exposure photography can do. So if you imagine this is a very fast shutter speed, the amount of information that you can fit in between this, it's not huge. It's going to be a lot of very quick information that makes it a sharper photo. If you have a slower shutter speed and you're moving your camera around a lot, when you take that photo, everything's going to be kind of blurry because it's catching the information as you're moving. Here's a few photos that I took of the waterfall where you can kind of see what I'm talking about with long exposure. So in the first one, I took it relatively quickly. It captured less movement, so there's less information in between the shutter opening and the shutter closing. You can still kind of pick out details here and there and see all the detail in the water. As I slow down the shutter speed, you can see it's starting to blur more and more, and that's because it's capturing more information. So it's capturing all the water falling from when the shutter opens to when it closes. So you can see here in the later photos that I took, there's a lot more information being captured and then condensed into one image. That's why all the water looks like it's blurry and all that, but if you look closely, everything else, everything solid is perfectly sharp. Everything else was sitting perfectly still, but the water was moving. This video probably wasn't too long, but if you watched to the end of it, I still really appreciate you. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit the bell notification so you get notified whenever I do drop new videos, and I will see you in the next video.